Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's June 12th, 2016, and this week we're going to do a lesson on a blues pentatonic guitar solo. And this week's question was sent in from Shayne. He's out in Marshalltown, Iowa, and he wrote in with this email: I have just finished practicing all of your guitar solo lessons for major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, and natural minor. Those 12-bar guitar solo lessons are fantastic and have made a big difference to my lead playing. So I'm writing in to your GuitarBlog channel and requesting if you could make another 12-bar solo lesson like that covering blues pentatonic. From Shayne in Marshalltown, Iowa, USA. Well, thanks a lot for writing in, Shayne. You know, I'm glad that you're enjoying working on all those guitar solo lessons. I've even been using those solo lessons here with my private students in classes at the studio. And, you know, everyone, I think, seems to enjoy learning those different kinds of licks and lead parts. I know certainly when I was studying scales, I was really into that as well. I always enjoyed getting some kind of guitar solo to work on, or, you know, some series of licks or riffs to get into my playing and actually apply the scales. You know, so what we're going to do this time around is we're going to take a look at a 12-bar blues solo in the key of C blues. First, I'm going to play through the entire part. Then we're going to run through each line measure by measure so you fully understand how to do this solo. Let's start, though, with me playing through the whole thing so you get a good idea how it's supposed to sound. All right, let's begin by running through the first four measures. In measure 1, we're missing the downbeat and applying a triplet into a half note using the chords 5th and flat 7th degree, as well as into the root of that measure's chord, which is a C7 chord. So what happens is we, like I said, we miss the downbeat, so there's a rest up front. So 1. We have that triplet where we're just pedaling between the G and the B flat. That's the 5th and the flat 7 of the C7th chord. And then we come along into the root. So that's measure 1. In measure 2, we have a very similar rhythmic feel, but it shortens the time with eighth notes into a quarter note feel. The intervals are using more extensions on the chord of F7 because that's our next chord coming up there. We're going to be applying the 6th and the 9th, a 4th around the 5th, and even into the root of F there. So there's lots of tones coming around. We're coming into the G tone to start things off. And then we're rolling through that B flat, which is the 4th, and then we're coming along into that C, which is, of course, the 5th of that F chord. And then we have that slide up top there with the eighth notes. And that's shooting up into an F and then dropping back into the E flat. So again, we're missing the downbeat, so 1. And then we're having the triplet come along into those eighth notes and the quarter note tied. Now, the third measure is going to be the start of a longer build-up that heads into the fourth measure. The harmony is focused upon the tonic chord once again, so C7 is the focus there. And there's a heavy accent into the chord tones of the root 5th and flat 7th, using a repeating phrase at the end there on the fourth measure. So again, we're missing the downbeat, so 1. We're jumping forward. And then we're going to start in with a pickup phrase that takes us to the repeating phrase. So we have that repeating idea coming off the C tone there, into the B flat, and then into the G, which is the 5th. So flat 7, the root, flat 7, and then into the 5th, the G. So that 3rd and 4th measures goes like this. So 1. And then we're going to resolve into an F tone into the next section. Well, the next 4 measures, we're going to work through a 2-bar phrase on the progressions 4 chord of F dominant 7th, and a 2-bar phrase that returns back home to the C dominant 7th chord. So F7 and C7, 2 measures each. Now the solo at this point begins from the 5th measure on a half note. That's going to be the F root of that F dominant 7th chord. And then we're going to have a nice triplet phrase that comes up after that. Then we're going to go in the next measure into a nice 16th note bend, release, pull off concept. And then into the C tone, which is the 5th of that F7 chord. After that, we're going to do a double stop, which is really cool. It's using the flat 7 and the major 3rd of the F dominant 7th chord, so E flat and A. And altogether it comes together to sound like this. Now when we head to the C dominant 7th chord next, what happens is we're going to start off, there's going to be a rest, and then we're going to do a bend that's going to start into a series of triplets that's going to have a descending run. It's going to come in, on the 2nd beat, and we're going to go 2 and 3 and 4 and That's kind of a neat sound. So 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and that's going to take us around to an octave idea in the next measure, where we hit the root of C up to the C octave, just as an 8th note phrase. And then we're going to do another triplet, heading into the flat 7 tone of the C dominant 7th chord, so B flat. We're using some of that blues scale idea too, with the flat 5, natural 5, and then up into that flat 7. So here's the second half. It goes like this. 1. Okay, so kind of a neat idea with that octave idea. All right, so those are the 5th and 6th, 7th, and 8th measures of the 12-bar blues. Take your time going through them. Make sure you understand there's some embellishments there, especially that bend, release, pull-off concept that we have with the 16th note triplet. Make sure that comes together okay. And then that double stop is a fair ways away. So double check all those ideas technically, before you start putting the metronome on or the drum machine on and trying to get all this in time. Well, in the final 4 measures, we're moving across the blues progression's turnaround phrase. So from measures 9 through 12, this phrase is the critical part of the blues progression because it generates that overall feel of taking us back up to the top. And we're heading through all the chord changes, G, F, and then back to the root of C, and then G again. So those are the movements. Now in measure 9, we're going to target chord tones of the root and flat 7 with kind of a spin on the melody line that incorporates the minor 3rd against the G dominant 7th chord. That flat 3 winds up being the tone of B flat. So check it out. Here's how that sound goes on. So it's right there. There's the B flat. Kind of an interesting idea. There's a grace note slide in there too. A little bit of a variation on the triplet rhythm as well with the quarter note and 8th note. We're going to have a very similar idea happening in the next measure to cover the F dominant 7th chord. That lick was covering G7. Then when we move into the next measure, we're covering the F7, and it's going to focus heavily upon the chord tones of the root, 5th, and flat 7 tones. Another nice twist is the appearance of this 16th note triplet idea. So we're going to have this type of phrase going on. It's that nice fast hammer-on pull-off lick there. Then we're going to head into measure 11, where we're going to have a busy, continuous eighth note triplet phrase that uses the whole sound of our C blues scale and just leads us over to the 12th measure. So that 11th measure, covering the C chord, goes like this. And then when the G7 chord comes in there to finish things off, we're going to hit on the flat 7 and major third of that G7 chord. We did that earlier in the progression in the solo, and I just think this brings in the chords a little bit tighter at the end there. So we'll have that 2-note double stop, and then just pushing right into the root note, the G tone. That's the root of that G7th chord at the end. So there's some really neat stuff going on there in the turnaround. Take some time and fully understand how all that stuff gets together, and then just try to work it out. Use your loop pedal or something and just try to play everything from start to finish, and I think you're gonna have a lot of fun with this thing. Well, working on blues scale is an excellent study. The scale is without a doubt one of the most popular scales used in all kinds of music. Aside from its obvious application in the blues style, this scale also is popular in tons of other styles: jazz, pop music, rock, metal, country and western, soul music, R&B, Latin music, you name it. It's probably using the blues scale somewhere in there. And if you like a whole wide assortment of different kinds of famous players, if you like Wes Montgomery or Angus Young, David Gilmour or Kirk Hammett or Keith Urban, it doesn't matter who, probably every one of those guys at some point is using the blues scale in their solos. So keep the importance of this scale in mind. You really got to get some chops up with it and be able to phrase with it nicely. The great thing about blues scale is it's fun to play and it's fairly easy to phrase with. Generally, almost anyone, any player can come along and start soloing a little bit with the blues scale and fairly quickly get some success happening with it. So I hope you enjoy the blues solo that I put together for you, and you have a couple of ideas that come out of that thing to take further in your own playing. Anyways, that's about all the time that I have for today. As always, I want to say thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, and if at all possible, please consider a small donation to help fund the Guitar Lessons project here. Otherwise, have yourself a great week, and I will catch up with you next time. Bye for now. If you're interested in learning faster, making better use of your time, and practicing longer, the Accelerating Your Learning Curve ebook is for you. Over 60 pages of information on how to take control of both the way you learn and the time that you devote to your practicing. Accelerating Your Learning Curve is available for instant download in the View Our Products area at creativeguitarstudio.com.